Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hope This Is Helpful, where we share our interabled perspective about everything and nothing. I am Tierra, and this is my co-host and husband, Mr. Leon Harris.
Oh, hi. I'm shy.
Today you shy? I don't know. I'm shy today. So with that being said, we'll transition right into stories about our daughter, because that's something that she just said to me yesterday, which was funny because I don't consider her to be shy. So do you have a story you want to share about Noelle, whether it's good or bad?
I'm gonna just share this weekend, like how. So she was really excited. Her main man, Pots and Pans, our nephew Malachi. They're, I think, like a month apart.
Literally a month apart.
And they just always do everything together. So she's like, "Can he come over?" I was like, "Sure." And then the whole time she did not want to share him. I'm not gonna say the whole time, but every time he grabbed something, "That's mine. I want to play with it." Or this time he grabbed this, "That's mine." It was just. Then she got mad at us today because I said, "Oh, Malachi was sitting in your car seat, and I had to adjust the straps." "This is why I don't like him. He changes it." I'm like, okay. Only child syndrome.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those only child issues that come up a lot because she doesn't have to share in her regular everyday life, and we actually don't force her to share. We kind of teach her. I would rather her share when she is open to it. Her heart is open to sharing, because then it's a more genuine thing than it is forced. She does share pretty well in lots of other situations. It's just always like sleepover time that's a little bit harder, and I think it's because it's more stuff. She doesn't really have a choice in it, and then it's a longer period of time that she has to be open to sharing. But yeah, the car seat thing is funny because if you haven't watched any of our home vlogs, you haven't seen the way our van is set up for Leon, who is a wheelchair driver. So in order for it to work, there's only one seat behind.
Wait, what's a wheelchair driver?
Well, a wheelchair user who drives with hand controls.
Oh, because I was thinking like some people might think it's like some people actually sit in their wheelchair the whole time.
That's fine. You can correct me if it came out wrong.
No, that's why I just didn't want people to be confused. Like think our car was one where I sit in my wheelchair, it locks in, and I'll drive.
No, Leon does not drive in his chair. He transfers out of his chair. We have stow and go seats in our van. So one of the seat behind the driver is stowed, so that way he can pull his wheelchair in behind him, which means that behind the driver and the front seat passenger, there's only one seat, which is where Noelle's car seat is. But if Leon's by himself with a kid, her or my nephew, who still is using car seats, he's able to reach them. So he took him home by himself. So he used Noelle's car seat as opposed to the second car seat, which is in the third row, because he can't reach him in the third row when he's by himself as a driver or as a parent. And so Noelle had issue with that because my nephew was a lot smaller than her. So adjusting the straps was needed. And now she's fussing about it. It's also because she changes her coat.
Yes.
And even though like she's not wearing a puffy coat, she still notices the thickness versus like her raincoat. So anyway, my story about Noelle. So last night we were coming home from gymnastics, and it was dark outside, and she's starting to notice everybody has their Christmas decorations up, and she sees the house across the street from us has their lights up and they're flashing, dancing, doing whatever they're doing. And she's like, "Oh, that's so cool. Why don't we have lights at our house?" And I was like, "Oh, no," I think she asked, like, how did they get those up there? And I said, "Oh, you have to use a ladder." And I was like, "That's why we don't have any lights up, because Daddy can't get on the ladder to put lights up." And without missing a beat or even giving it a second thought, she says, "Well, you can do it." Like, I really be thinking I'm doing something, coming up with these like answers. I be like, this is gonna be the one that's gonna work. I'm gonna tell her dad can't get on the ladder, we don't have lights, and then she gonna believe me, and then she gonna move on with her life. But no, she has so much faith in me.
I already knew that's what I knew.
She has so much faith in people in general, actually. Because another story, she wants to go to Michael's to get fabric that she saw and make something for her cousins. So I say to her, if you're buying fabric, you have to be able to like sew it together. And none of us know how to sew. And she's like, it's okay. Gigi can do it. Meaning her great grandmother who lives hours away from
exactly.
us. But she has like so much faith in people that I told my grandmom this, and she's like, I hope I don't disappoint her. I'll come up with something.
She be putting people on all kinds of jobs. Oh
man, but it's so, she's like so matter of fact about it. Like, well, you can do it, and I'm like, oh, but I'm not.
That's not my plan for this year
or any year. All right, next segment, we are going to do, we use what we call these intimacy cards. They are by the company called Skin Deep. And this is the couples edition. We're going to pull a random card. We're going to answer it and go from there. When was the last time I misunderstood you? And how do you feel about it now? Man, I wanted a better card.
I could be wrong. I feel like I was misunderstood in the car ride here. I don't even know how to describe it. My wife loves social media, and she, I think she be bothered by some of the things she see, whereas I'm like, it's only gonna get worse. But I probably could have phrased it differently. But I wonder if you thought. It was like personal against you.
Well, this is a great example because it was going to be mine. We'll give y'all a little bit more. Well, I think he gave you enough context. We were having a conversation in the car about something I saw on social media, and I think we both felt misunderstood. And I think I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it now. So let's see. How can we backtrack this? Okay. So what part made you feel misunderstood?
That it was like personal to you.
Oh, because you felt like I took it personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I did. Because I think that was part of why I felt misunderstood, because his response to what I was saying made me feel like he viewed it as something I took personal, which wasn't the case.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, his response was like, what did you say? These comments really bother you.
Yeah.
And I felt defensive because I'm like, I'm not bothered. I think I'm very literal sometimes.
That's when we say your expression and what you say. The way you, like, phrase it, I'm like, oh, like I be thinking, like, I'll be like, yo, you need to get the cop. It's like, because I be thinking
the way I have a conversation about it.
Because you are empathetic. I think you always. I can't tell per se like what's an empathetic moment or just talking.
Yeah, I think today I was just talking. And honestly, like as I was talking, I was still talking through what I even thought and felt about what I was talking to you about, which I understand. Or I'm trying to process is that hard or confusing for the person that I'm having a conversation with? I don't want to change who I am, but I do want to be considerate of the person I'm trying to have a conversation with so that it doesn't cause for us to misunderstand each other in any way, for us to be in our feelings about something that really, we shouldn't be. I did feel defensive because I felt like I was being viewed as something negative. Like, oh, you really let these comments bother you. And in that situation, it wasn't a true thing. And I think because I do value his opinion, even though at the same time, I low-key be like, I'm just going to be who I am. I don't really care what you think. Like, two things can be true. I still care about what you think, but I also don't be wanting to care about what you think sometimes. In a way that's like healthy. Like, I don't want it to be like, I only care about what you think, and then I'm not being myself, or I'm not caring about my own opinion of myself. I don't want that anyway. Not like I don't want to care about what he has to say, but like I want there to be a healthy balance to how much of what he thinks I take into consideration. So it just felt like And I think we recently had this conversation about comments on social media. So I think that's what added to like my frustration of I want to have a conversation and then not be viewed as I'm taking things personal or I'm taking things to heart that don't need to be taken to heart. It was, for me, it was much more of a lighter conversation about what I saw, because it brought me to a realization that I may not have had if people don't be how they be in these comments.
Yeah. The way
it'd be funny to me sometimes.
You be so passionate. I see the passion. Like you be, if you for it, it's passionate. If you against it, you passionate. That's why I feel like you take it personal. I'm like, you feel like you a lawyer. You just be sitting in the courtroom. You go to evidence. This. I'm like, all right, well, that's why I think you take it personal. I'm not trying to change you, but I think I'm also pop-out where like, F these people.
F these people.
And the funny part I was going to say, I don't care what people think. Of course I do. I'm on social media, so I care what somebody thinks. But at the same time, no.
Well, yeah, in this situation, it wasn't a matter of me caring about what these people thought. It was more like funny to me that people really do come on the internet and think that like you're supposed to just take their opinion because you posted a piece of content.
Yeah.
That you have to take their advice or do what they think you should do. People think because you let them into a piece of your life, however much or little you decide to give, they kind of take it and run with it. They take it and they think that they know you now for real, and people are very open and easy to give unsolicited advice. And maybe it's the part of me that is very passionate, which I do take as a compliment. Maybe it's the part of me that's like a rule follower, even though these rules are unwritten.
Rules on social media.
I think there should be, because I do think that like I guess in my mind the unwritten rules are like just be here for the ride. Like you don't have to think that like I'm supposed to just take your advice because they gave you a box to write something and the option to hit send. Like, that doesn't mean you have to say everything that you're thinking to me.
I want to have a whole episode just on this. I want to do a whole episode.
All right, so we will do, if you want to do an episode on this,
it's going to be a short episode, not like that. A full
episode on this. But, yeah, so the misunderstanding was that I took it personal. And you felt like I took it personal. Mm-hmm. So then you felt misunderstood. And I felt misunderstood. How do you feel about it now?
I'm glad we cleared the air and talked about it.
I am proud of us for clearing the air and talking about it sooner rather than later and not letting it linger.
Yeah. Real quick, since we've been working on us, I feel like we've been in sync a lot more.
I can agree with that.
So we didn't really plan to do the podcast. Well, she did. I did freestyle on my days off.
I was like, it's his weekend.
We're actually matching.
Look at us.
And this is like a shirt that my taco meat all out.
Giving the ladies the taco meat.
In men's.
In the men's. Shout out to the men's.
No. That was just funny moment.
Okay, so our topic today is, again, something that is on social media. I scroll TikTok a lot more than Leon does. I actually spend way more time on social media than Leon does. And so I was on TikTok and I saw a video a woman was doing about like 5 things that she splurges on in her life. And this was another thing we actually had a disagreement about. But I decided, or I think I decided, and I think you went along with it. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I decided to put a positive spin on it and make it a good topic to talk about on the podcast, as opposed to it being a pain point in our home where we were like at odds with each other about this. So the video, the woman discusses 5 things that she would splurge on, and I don't have it in front of me to give you the exact 5 things, but I'm going to give you what I can remember from the list. And they were things such as she's going to always pay for a manicure and a pedicure. She's not going to do it herself. She's going to always pay for somebody to braid her hair. She's not going to do it herself because it saves money. It takes up so much more of her time that she would rather have her time than the money. She's going to pay for somebody to always come and clean her house. She's going to pay for pre-TSA at the airport. Okay, so it's things of that nature. People were commenting that they would pay for a mobile car cleaning service. People would pay for, prime parking at the airport, things of that nature. And so I presented this topic to Leon because I was like, I actually find things like this to be like a form of intimacy, to have these conversations. I am into deeper conversations much more than Leon is. And I kind of was like,
I don't have the idea. I don't come up with the ideas. I have no problem.
I just feel like I'd be like giddy excited about it, and you just be kind of like, oh yes, if that's what you want to do, let's do it. I don't ever think I feel like it's you being like, ooh, let's talk about this tonight.
I don't think that is going to happen. I mean, I'd be excited to talk about it, but I don't think I'll show it. Well, some stuff I'd be excited to talk about. But I also just like, oh, that's cool, let's talk about it.
So I was having this conversation with excitement. I'm like, ooh, like these are, because I actually took the time to write down after watching it. I made a list of things that I would splurge on in my life. Things that, for me, it's part of what are our goals? What is the life that I want to have for my family? Because then I know how to budget. Mm-hmm. I know how much money I need to make, how much, all of those things come into play, all of those factors. Because one of the other things she did was like nonstop flights, which I feel like is important to this conversation. Nonstop flights. And so I was telling Leon the things on his list, and I will let you share what your response was. Or your perspective.
I feel like some of those things is kind of like life necessity, but like were things that you can use in life. They weren't really a splurge. Like the cleaner, okay. If you're not a good cleaner, you should hire a cleaner. Manicure and pedicure, okay, that's a splurge. But TSA, pre-TSA, oh, you need to save time. It's just one of those. For me, it's like one of those grown-up things. It's just like, this will make my life better. Because I think the problem is, what happened. This just came to me. My life is so set up where they're not splurges, they're necessities. Mm-hmm. So I have to pay so I can make sure I get a good seat on an airplane. I might have to pay to leave my car somewhere because it's easier for me to drive to the parking garage and then take a flight. Like for me, I think that's probably my view on it, because I've had to pay for so much just because I'm in a wheelchair. Like when I go to a Sixers game, I gotta get the halfway expensive tickets just to get a good seat.
Right.
So I think that now I'm looking at it differently. Yeah, some of those things is a necessity for me. That's probably why I think it is for everybody.
Yeah, so when we were having a conversation, it was kind of like, I think I was a little frustrated. He could tell I was a little frustrated because he felt a little defensive that I was like judging the things that he felt were splurges. But I think it was like an aha moment as well. And I mean, to be honest, my therapist helped me reach this point. I did not come here on my own. I just so happened to have therapy, I think the same day or the next day. And she was just kind of like, it gives you guys perspective about each other, about what similarities you have, what differences you have. And it is, I guess, from an able-bodied perspective, it is something that I guess I didn't consider. I wasn't open-minded to the fact that, and I think and I'm not going to make an excuse. I wasn't open to the fact that the life that you live in your chair is different than the life that I live being able to use all of my limbs to their full capability. And even though we live this life together, we're still two individual people who are still living two different experiences. We're just living them in the same space. And so the things that I can get excited about, that I can budget for and I can look at as splurges for life, I do have to understand that they are necessities for Leon. And it's interesting because what I consider to be a splurge is a splurge because I want him to be comfortable. I want him to have everything that I think that he deserves. So pre-TSA, nonstop flights places is And like for the person that made the TikTok, for her, it was from the perspective of, I don't want to do a layover anywhere. I don't want to change planes anywhere. Some people like the idea of that because then they can go into another airport, especially if they're part of like a lounge club from their credit card company or whatever, airline or whatever. And they can enjoy drinks and food and all of those things. From our perspective as an inter-able couple, for Leon, it's a necessity to not have to do all of that transferring. For me, the reason why it was a splurge is because there are people who use wheelchairs that I have read their experiences of having to transfer flights and having things go wrong, having things be a very close call. So for me, I saw it as a splurge because I'm saying that this is not something that I want to be stressed out about. This is not something that I want to have to consider. I want to go where I'm going and have a good time and know that we all got there safely and in one piece, including his chair. And so the chances of that happening are increased by me only having to take one plane. It's only one set of people or two set of people having to deal with his chair. I don't want to know what it's like to transfer planes. I don't want to know what it's like to have to do a connecting flight and where the last one's off the plane from the first flight to the second flight. I don't want to figure out what that looks like, that if I get off the plane in one terminal and then my next flight is all the way across this airport that could be gigantic. I don't want to experience that. I want to get exactly where I'm going. But, you do have, when you're an able-bodied person, you do have a little bit more of a choice in that versus somebody who is a full-time wheelchair user. And also, and I don't want this to come out wrong, and I apologize in advance if it does. I also consider my husband's injury level, that he is a full quad, even though people don't believe it. He may feel like a para most days. He is still a quad. And so some of those like fantastic things that we see shared on social media that people are able to do to help themselves, to, do these really cool tricks.
Yeah.
That may not always be the case for him.
Yeah.
And I want to be considerate of that because then it makes my life feel a little bit easier. One of the things that you felt like was a splurge was to be able to get one of the things I felt like was a splurge was having somebody come clean our house. And I think for me, it's a splurge because I am the full-time caregiver. I'm the one that's responsible for cleaning the house. So he looked at it as like that's a necessity because there are things that he can't do. So for him, it's like, this is not a splurge. This is something that I just need. But I kind of was like, yeah, I guess you would. I mean, I totally get that you do need it, but you're getting it. Like you have it. Like you already have somebody being paid to take care of your house. And now the person being paid to take care of the house is paying somebody else to do it, because for me, it's a splurge, but for him is a necessity. Like, what would you do? What would your life look like if somebody wasn't coming in and dusting your ceiling fans and cleaning your blinds and mopping your floors and getting the grout real good?
It's still the same.
We'll talk about that later. I think it looks better.
Oh.
I went behind. And anyway. So yeah, there were things like that. I'm trying to think if there was another thing on the list that was kind of like his list was technology. Like I was like, first of all, you only got one thing on your list. Where I literally went into my journal and I wrote down all of the things that I consider to be like splurges that I am looking forward to in my 40s, being able to like make a part of our everyday life, so that we can just feel like we are living our best life. And I can't think of, I'm trying to think of anything else that was like
for you. Yeah. What's your
that
list?
was a necessity for you, but like a splurge for me. I wish I would have brought my list out with me because I don't have it in front of me to give you really good examples. I did like the mobile car, like having somebody come to you to clean your car.
Nowadays, that's a splurge.
I definitely want to do pre-TSA. People were talking. I started looking into like the other ones. Like there's one called Clear. There's I'm not going to get into it right now, but there were other things on with like airport stuff that was on the list. I definitely want somebody to clean our house more frequently than is being cleaned. I am even open to like somebody cooking for us, but that's not really Leon's thing. And for me, it's not like a must. A lot of people are into having a laundry service. That's not something that, that's not something that's a need for me. I'm not gonna say I enjoy the laundry, but I don't mind it. If I had to pick something that I don't mind, it would be the laundry. I would probably pay for other things.
Yeah.
Oh, like landscaping was on this person, like some people. I'm trying to think of what people wrote in the comments, like having like a landscaper come out. It's a necessity. Yeah. Especially when you, even just like how we were talking about the Christmas lights. It's things like that. Like the more things that he can't do, I have to make a decision for my own mental health and my own physical health of how many things is worth spending the money versus me putting it on like my list of things to do.
It's expensive, this life I have to live. And that's one of the things people don't realize, but there's so many things I got. That's why that's why I'm like, no, it's a necessity, I think. Just, my mind is skewed, I guess. I see things differently.
I mean, I wouldn't say skewed. I think it's what it has to be in order for you to find... for
things to get done.
For survival.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because... I don't know. I don't want to say that because it could be an unfair statement. You have to find a level of survival, especially because you don't want to let living in your chair be a burden versus just something you have to do. Yeah. And it can feel like that when there's so many variables that are in your way of being able to live your life to the fullest. But living life in a chair is expensive. It's really
I gotta go to the bike shop now and fix my tire.
Oh, today?
Probably. I'm riding on a few. No, I don't even know if I'm going to that tire.
Yeah, bike tires. Like, who you would never think that you need to like be friends with the bike shop, but you do. We have a neighbor that comes and he uses a snowblower to clean our in front of our house and our sidewalk. And you're grateful for people like that because when we move, we move not thinking that that's something that we would really
figure out.
We would just figure it out. Like, it wasn't something that we were like, I hope we have a neighbor with a snowblower. No, you kind of just have to figure these things out on your own. But it does get expensive because now there's like cleaning the gutters. Like, these are all things I just don't want to do. Not that I'm not capable of doing them. I just don't want to. Because not only am I trying to give him the life that he deserves, I also have to consider that I'm giving myself the life that I deserve and the life that I want. And that doesn't include some of these like harder tasks. So yes. Anything else? Moral of the story, life in a chair is expensive, and some things that able-bodied people get to consider to be splurges are necessities when you live in a chair.
Yeah.
Or I should say, for Leon in his chair.
When you're in a wheelchair. I said, when you're in a wheelchair.
I, Tierra, never want to speak on behalf of wheelchair users. Leon can speak for the community if he so chooses. I will speak about Leon in my experience with Leon.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for all wheelchair users either because everyone's experience is different. Like, we generalize stuff, but everybody's experience is different.
If it's not too long of an answer or too much to answer on the spot, what are some things technology related that you would consider to be a splurge in terms of your disability, not just things that you would enjoy?
Well, I want a different kind of monitor. That's a splurge because I have 3 monitors and they all work, but they're not beautiful. I feel like picking a keyboard, you kind of got to pick the right keyboard. Just when you're disabled, because my fingers kind of drift off. Like, I can't feel the other side of my finger, so typing an A just happens sometimes. So I got to make sure I have the right keyboard and mouse. So that's in between a splurge and a necessity. Yeah. Um, I don't know what everything else would be a splurge. I feel like.
What about the electric opener for your curtains?
Oh,
That's kind of a splurge because
it's not
I
to say
can
that's a
open
splurge.
them,
I would agree, and I can open curtains.
and you don't live alone.
Yeah, but I don't like opening curtains either because I'm afraid I'm gonna pull it down. But
Yeah.
that would be a splurge. That's why we don't have one. That would be a splurge. Really, technology like automating a home is not a splurge. It's just expensive. Like I really want everything automated. I want security on every window. Like as a victim, I don't know if that's a splurge or a necessity.
Ooh.
Okay, a survivor. But like for me, like I'm paranoid. Just because I have a nice home and we live in an okay neighborhood, we live on one floor, so it's vulnerable.
Why do you choose to use the word survivor versus victim?
Because I think victim. I'm tired of being always scared. A victim. I think that's more of a victim mindset. Wondering. I'm always wondering. Whereas a survivor, you just have to. Like I feel like I'm living and trying to not be scared.
That just made me emotional.
I mean, I've been emotional the whole episode.
You what?
Been emotional the whole episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I try not to cry, but not cry all the time.
Okay, so let's get back on topic, and then we'll wrap this up. Do you consider? I was just watching a video on Instagram. I don't even know what it's called, but the one where they did the folding chair and then went into the thing or in the hood of the car.
Oh, that's called the I know what it's called. I know,
but not that thing in particular. Do you consider accessible vehicles to be a necessity or a splurge? Because we technically don't have what's considered to be an accessible vehicle. We just kind of like made it up based on I think other people's experience.
It's not a splurge because getting in and out that chair and getting in and out the car is not fun. That van is not always fun. Or the flex is not fun. It's an expensive necessity. There's nobody to cover that but you most of the time. Yeah, you know, some of my people, the way they got injured, you know, they can get covered. But the way I got injured, that would blow my budget.
Right.
That would blow my budget. Like this $70,000 for a van.
One time.
Yeah,
so
if it breaks down, like you got to get a new. Like no, that's expensive. That's why I'm just trying to make do. I guess I hope I never get really worse, but I'm just trying to make do until then. Like, and that's why we got a van because, like, all right, hopefully I can convert it.
Okay, one more question, and then I'm going to summarize something that Leon said for people who may not know exactly what he meant. Power chair versus manual chair, is that a necessity or a splurge?
For who, me?
I guess in your case, because you can use a manual chair.
Yeah, that'd be a splurge.
An electric chair would be a splurge?
If I had to pay out of pocket. Because I don't know if insurance will cover.
Because you don't need it. Okay.
I would have to... insurance don't cover.
So
one of the things
that Leon said about the accessible vehicle was that it would blow his budget. If you don't know Leon's story, Leon was a gunshot victim. He's a gunshot survivor now, and that comes with money allocated from the state for crime. The victims of crime, they give him a certain amount of money for his lifetime to buy the things that are medically necessary for his life due to his injury. And so when you're looking at getting an accessible van, accessible vehicle, and you're spending $70,000, that's a lot of money that could be going to, say, maybe medical supplies that will last you probably years and years and years and years and years and years and years versus a vehicle. We got hand controls put into our first car, and I forget how much they were, like $2,000.
It was like $2,000-$3,000. Yeah.
But you only can use them in that car.
Yep.
They don't recommend you taking them out of that car and putting them into another car, and so that gets to be really expensive. Which also, if you were curious, I don't know if people were or weren't, as to why we don't have an accessible van and why we make do with what we have is because it's what we can afford.
Yep.
Even the van we have now, we don't have built-in hand controls. We did not put out that money a second time. We are using ones that come on and off. I would love to have them installed though for you. But yeah, I think that and I don't want to get into this on the episode because it can get lengthy, but like I think that it's something to explore if a power chair ever becomes a necessity, because it changes everything.
Oh yeah, we would have to do
changes
that then,
everything.
but that's why I'm trying to just wait.
It's almost like, it almost kind of feels like a luxury to not have to get an accessible van. But it is still a lot of work on him to have to make do because things are so expensive. I'm sure if it weren't so expensive, you would not be pulling your chair into the van yourself every day and having to put them hand controls on, because I take them off every day.
Yeah, that's, people wonder why. I understand why there are bitter people that are disabled. I understand it. It's hard not to be.
Yeah.
It's hard. A lot of things are hard for something I did. For me, for something I didn't do. So I'll leave it alone.
Yeah. All right, guys. We thank you guys for joining us again on the Hope This Is Helpful podcast. You can find us on social media at Harris Hope and Humor on Instagram and as well as TikTok and YouTube. If you would like to view the podcast, you can find it on YouTube at Harris Hope and Humor. If you would like to see more of our other content, our family vlogs and things of that nature, make sure you subscribe as well. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.